January 17, 1943. The dark Pacific stretches endlessly, broken only by the faint glow of distant fires. The roar of the USS Helena's engines cuts through the salty night air, a steady heartbeat against the restless waves. Lightning flashes on the horizon, briefly illuminating her massive hull, steel glinting like a predator ready to strike. On deck, sailors grip the rails, eyes scanning the darkness. The smell of salt, gun oil, and burning cordite hangs heavy, mingling with the tension that coils tighter with each passing minute. Somewhere in the distance, Japanese ships move silently, unaware that a storm of lead waits for them. Helena's guns, gleaming under dim lights, promise swift judgment to any who dare cross her path. In the shadows, officers exchange terse orders, the cadence precise, practiced. This ship has earned her name, Machine, just for the fury she can unleash, but for her uncanny ability to survive when others falter. Every plank, every rivet, every life aboard carries the weight of history in the making. Tonight, she is not just a cruiser. She is legend in steel and fire, moving through the Pacific like a ghost that refuses to die. And yet, the battle ahead will test even her fabled resilience. By late 1941, the Pacific was a cauldron of tension, each island, strait, and harbor a potential flashpoint. The Japanese Empire, emboldened by rapid expansion through Southeast Asia, had set its sights on dominance over the Pacific. The United States, still reeling from isolationist policies and unprepared for large-scale naval war, scrambled to fortify its positions. Pearl Harbor would soon be the flash that ignited the full fury of conflict. Amid this escalating tension, the USS Helena was commissioned on February 14, 1939, a light cruiser of the Brooklyn class, designed for speed, firepower, and survivability. With her 15 6-inch guns mounted in 5 triple turrets, Helena could deliver devastating barrages against both surface ships and shore targets. She displaced nearly 10,000 tons and could reach speeds over 32 knots, making her an ideal asset for fast-moving Pacific engagements. Beyond raw firepower, Helena embodied a philosophy of versatility. Enough armor to withstand medium-caliber shells, yet agile enough to maneuver in complex battle formations. From the outset, Helena was stationed at Pearl Harbor, joining the Pacific Fleet at a time when tension with Japan simmered beneath a fragile veneer of diplomacy. Her early months were devoted to exercises, fleet maneuvers, gunnery drills, and tactical coordination with aircraft carriers and destroyers. These drills were more than preparation. They were the forge in which crews learned to survive the chaos of naval warfare. Officers and sailors alike became familiar with the ship's capabilities. The precise timing of turret rotations, the feel of her engines throttling through heavy seas, the rhythms of watch rotations that could mean the difference between life and death in combat. The attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, reshaped the Pacific. Helena, not yet forward deployed in the main battle, avoided the destruction that crippled much of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Yet the shockwaves reached her immediately. Crews watched the news, digested the staggering losses, and prepared for the long fight ahead. The U.S. Navy, once scattered across posts, now coalesced under a singular imperative: halt Japanese expansion and secure supply lines vital to the islands and Australia. By early 1942, Helena was part of Task Force 8, a component of the Pacific Fleet tasked with convoy protection, reconnaissance, and direct engagement when opportunity arose. The Pacific theater demanded versatility. Cruisers like Helena escorted troop transports, shelled enemy positions, and acted as anti-aircraft screens for carriers. These operations were far from ceremonial. Each mission carried enormous risk. Japanese carriers and cruisers prowled the seas, and submarines lurked beneath the waves, ready to strike with torpedoes capable of tearing a ship in two. Helena's crew was a mix of veterans and freshly trained sailors. Training was constant, but the reality of war had a way of accelerating experience. Officers drilled night fighting tactics, plotting courses through the archipelagos where reefs and shoals could be as deadly as enemy fire. Gunnery crews practiced rapid targeting and simultaneous salvos, their fingers memorizing the touch of each shell as it left the turret. In the cramped quarters below deck, mechanics maintained engines that could fail under the strain of combat, and radio operators kept communications alive, translating fragmented intelligence into actionable orders. The early months of 1942 also saw the intensification of the Guadalcanal campaign. Japanese forces aimed to secure the Solomon Islands as a strategic buffer, threatening supply routes between the U.S., Australia, and New Zealand. Helena's role became crucial. She provided fire support for amphibious landings, escorted convoys carrying men and materiel, and engaged enemy ships attempting to contest Allied control of the waters. Each engagement tested not only the ship's design, but also the cohesion and courage of her crew. It was in these formative battles that Helena earned a reputation. Reports from officers and sailors alike emphasized her resilience. During engagements, she absorbed hits that might cripple other cruisers, and her gunnery accuracy often turned the tide in smaller skirmishes. Word of the machine gun spread among both allies and enemies, not simply for her guns, but for the uncanny ability of the ship and crew to endure, adapt, and strike back. Helena's story was no longer just about steel and weaponry. It became a story about people. The engineers who kept the engines running at full throttle, the lookouts scanning dark seas for silhouettes of enemy vessels, the gunners calculating angles under pressure, and the officers balancing aggressive tactics with survival. Each person aboard carried the weight of strategy, expectation, and survival into every mission, forging the collective identity that would define Helena in the crucible of war. This foundation of design, training, and early combat experience set the stage for what was to come. The Pacific was unforgiving, and Helena would soon face trials that would test her in ways no drill or exercise could replicate. By mid-1942, the USS Helena was fully immersed in the chaos of the Pacific theater. Her early patrols and convoy escorts had evolved into active combat missions, as Japanese forces attempted to consolidate their hold over the Solomon Islands. Helena's primary responsibility was clear: protect vital supply lines, support amphibious landings, and engage enemy ships whenever possible. The stakes were high. Control of these waters meant the difference between reinforcing Allied positions or facing isolation and defeat. Helena's first major taste of combat came during the early phases of the Guadalcanal campaign. The Japanese had fortified their positions on nearby islands, making every approach treacherous. Navigating narrow channels under the threat of torpedo boats and shore batteries demanded precision and nerves of steel. Helena's speed and maneuverability became critical. Her 15 6-inch guns were not merely tools. They were statements of intent, capable of delivering concentrated broadsides that could suppress enemy positions and turn the tide of localized engagements. Commanded by Captain Thomas L. Gatch, Helena's leadership emphasized both aggression and caution. Gatch, a career officer with experience in fleet coordination and naval gunnery, instilled a culture of meticulous preparation. Officers pored over maps and intelligence reports, plotting courses that minimized exposure while maximizing offensive capability. Crew rotations ensured readiness, and drills simulated torpedo attacks, night battles, and coordinated strikes with destroyers and aircraft. Each exercise reinforced a single truth: in the Pacific, hesitation could be fatal. By late 1942, Helena had proven her worth in multiple skirmishes. Japanese reconnaissance reported her presence in contested waters, noting her heavy gunfire and resilience under attack. Allied commanders began to recognize Helena as more than just another cruiser. She was a force multiplier, capable of tipping the balance during convoy escorts or surprise engagements. Reports from other ships in the task force highlighted her rapid-fire gunnery, efficient damage control, and the morale boost her presence provided. Sailors often remarked that Helena seemed to survive encounters that would have crippled lesser vessels, earning her the nickname machine gun. The human element of Helena's story grew increasingly significant. Crews bonded under constant danger, their cohesion a critical asset. Sailors became adept at improvisation, patching damage amid battle, and keeping engines running despite torpedo or shell strikes. Mechanics crawled through engine rooms under extreme heat and pressure, while gunners loaded shells with precision even as enemy tracers lit the night sky. Every action was a test of endurance and training, reinforcing the belief that Helena was not just a ship, but a living organism sustained by the skill and determination of those aboard. In early 1943, Helena took part in night operations intended to intercept Japanese supply runs, known as the Tokyo Express, to Guadalcanal. These missions were fraught with danger. Japanese destroyers and cruisers prowled the waters, torpedo attacks were frequent, and visibility was often near zero. Helena's radar and lookouts became vital, providing early warnings and enabling coordinated responses. Each successful engagement, no matter how small, enhanced her reputation for survivability and firepower. The ship's resilience was not only a product of technology but of doctrine. Damage control procedures were rigorous. Fires were suppressed within minutes, flooded compartments isolated, and gunners continued firing even under duress. Helena's agility allowed her to evade many torpedo attacks, while her coordinated gunnery struck enemy vessels with deadly precision. By combining technological advantages, disciplined leadership, and human endurance, Helena carved out a role that would soon place her at the center of one of the most brutal naval confrontations in the Pacific. As Helena prepared for the critical engagements of mid-1943, the Pacific theater had reached a tipping point. Control of the Solomon Islands was contested fiercely. Allied and Japanese forces were locked in a deadly dance of maneuver, firepower, and endurance. Helena's presence in these waters was no longer incidental, it was decisive. The ship and her crew stood as both shield and spear, ready to face the trials that would define her legacy. This growing tension, combined with Helena's increasing prominence in Pacific operations, naturally leads into the angles of her story, examining the human, technological, tactical, and moral dimensions that made her legendary. The heartbeat of the USS Helena was not her engines, her guns, or her steel hull, it was the crew. Over 1,000 men lived, worked, and fought aboard this cruiser, each individual a critical thread in the fabric of survival. In the tight confines of her decks, sailors learned to read each other's movements, anticipate needs, and respond instantly to danger. Night battles were the ultimate test. Torpedoes streaked through darkness, enemy shells whistled past, and fires could erupt without warning. Yet Helena's crew operated with a disciplined rhythm, born of exhaustive drills and the harsh reality that hesitation could mean death. Personal stories illustrate this human element. Gunners, sometimes just teenagers, would reload shells weighing hundreds of pounds in minutes, their hands blistered and raw. Engineers crawled through smoke-filled engine rooms, repairing damage even as alarms blared and the ship shuddered under impact. Officers coordinated maneuvers, often under direct fire, relying on split-second decisions that could save or doom hundreds of men. Morale, despite the constant threat of death, remained remarkably high, fueled by camaraderie, shared purpose, and the pride of serving on a ship whose legend was already forming. Helena was more than steel. She was a community tested under fire, where courage was both personal and collective. Tactically, Helena was designed for versatility and speed. As a Brooklyn-class light cruiser, she could engage enemy ships with concentrated broadsides, provide anti-aircraft cover for carriers, and execute rapid maneuvers that outpaced slower vessels. Her role in the Solomon Islands campaign demonstrated this tactical flexibility. She escorted convoys, covered troop landings, and intercepted Japanese supply lines with precision. Night operations became a defining tactical challenge. Helena's radar systems provided a crucial advantage, allowing her to detect enemy vessels in near-total darkness. Capt. Gatch and his officers meticulously plotted approaches and coordinated with destroyers to maximize offensive and defensive potential. Helena's gunnery crews executed rapid, controlled salvos designed to overwhelm enemy ships before they could react. This combination of speed, firepower, and coordinated tactics made Helena a formidable adversary, earning the respect and fear of Japanese naval commanders. Helena's technological sophistication was integral to her reputation. Her 15 6-inch 47 caliber guns, mounted in 5 triple turrets, could deliver an astonishing volume of fire against enemy cruisers and destroyers. Complementing this main battery were 5-inch dual-purpose guns and a suite of anti-aircraft weapons capable of deterring dive bombers and torpedo planes. Radar, still relatively new in 1942, allowed Helena to operate effectively at night, giving her the edge in detecting and tracking enemy vessels. Her armor and compartmentalization contributed to survivability. While not invulnerable, Helena could absorb medium-caliber shellfire and contain flooding, allowing her to continue fighting even after sustaining hits. Damage control teams, trained rigorously and stationed throughout the ship, enabled rapid response to fires, flooding, and mechanical failures. The combination of these technological and procedural systems transformed Helena from a simple warship into a resilient combat platform capable of surviving engagements that might sink other cruisers. Leadership aboard Helena was a decisive factor in her effectiveness. Capt. Thomas L. Gatch exemplified the balance between aggression and caution. He trusted his officers' expertise and empowered them to act decisively in the chaos of combat. Orders were concise, practical, and often delivered with calm authority, reinforcing confidence among the crew. Tactical decisions, such as approach angles during night engagements or deployment in support of amphibious landings, reflected deep understanding of both ship capabilities and enemy tendencies. Gatch's leadership created a culture in which initiative was encouraged, but discipline was paramount. Crew members knew precisely what was expected, yet they also understood that adaptation in the moment could determine survival. The human-machine synergy aboard Helena was a product of this leadership, where strategy, technology, and human skill intersected seamlessly. Japanese commanders quickly learned that Helena was no ordinary cruiser. Reports noted her rapid gunfire, durability, and ability to disrupt supply lines. Facing Helena in night operations became a high-stakes gamble. Torpedo attacks that might succeed against other vessels often failed to disable her, while her accurate return fire forced Japanese ships to retreat or risk severe damage. Helena's presence altered tactical calculations, forcing the enemy to commit more resources or avoid engagement entirely. The ship's reputation grew as an almost haunting adversary, a vessel that struck decisively and endured, earning respect even from those sworn to destroy her. Beyond tactics and technology, USS Helena came to embody a broader moral and symbolic significance. She was more than a warship. She was a testament to resilience, determination, and the human spirit under extreme adversity. For Allied forces, Helena represented hope and steadfastness in the face of a seemingly insurmountable enemy. Sailors aboard her carried not just guns and orders, but the weight of their comrades, the strategy of the Pacific Campaign, and the faith of a nation fighting for survival. Reports from Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands frequently referenced the morale boost provided by Helena's presence. Her guns could sweep enemy positions, her speed could outmaneuver pursuers, and her reputation as machine gun inspired confidence in other vessels. The symbolic power of Helena extended beyond the fleet. Newspapers, letters from the front, and oral histories highlighted the ship as a manifestation of U.S. naval ingenuity and courage, a floating emblem of resistance and perseverance against the Axis advance. While combat engagements defined much of Helena's fame, her logistical and strategic roles were equally critical. Escorting convoys carrying troops, fuel, and ammunition to contested islands placed Helena at the nexus of supply and firepower. In a theater defined by distance, island chains, and unpredictable weather, maintaining the flow of resources was a lifeline. Helena's speed allowed her to respond quickly to threats, intercept enemy supply runs, and reinforce embattled positions. The broader strategic context emphasized the importance of light cruisers like Helena. They were nimble enough for rapid redeployment, yet armed to influence multiple engagements simultaneously. Intelligence, coordination with aircraft, and real-time communication with other fleet units maximized their impact. Helena's operational effectiveness was a combination of her inherent capabilities and the strategic doctrines of the U.S. Navy, demonstrating how individual ships could shape larger campaigns through both firepower and presence. Psychologically, Helena's reputation influenced both Allied and Japanese minds. Her survival through early engagements created a perception of invincibility, earning her the moniker, the ship that wouldn't die. This had tangible effects in battle. Allied crews reported higher morale when Helena joined a formation, knowing her guns could dominate an engagement. Conversely, Japanese reports reflected caution and sometimes hesitation when encountering her, affecting enemy tactics and decision-making. This psychological edge was amplified by Helena's consistent performance under duress. Each successful engagement reinforced the perception of invulnerability, which, while grounded in actual resilience and firepower, became part of her mystique. Helena was not just a combatant. She was a force that influenced the emotional calculus of naval warfare. Accounts from Helena's crew highlight the intense human experience of serving on a ship of legend. Survivors recall the rhythm of life on board, long hours of watch, maintenance, drills, and the sudden eruptions of chaos during combat. The combination of fear, adrenaline, and camaraderie forged bonds that could only exist under extreme stress. Even after the ship's eventual sinking, survivor narratives emphasized pride in their service and admiration for the vessel that had carried them through so many battles. These perspectives offer a crucial angle on Helena's story. The ship's legacy is inseparable from those who served aboard her. Their courage, adaptability, and determination transformed a collection of steel, engines, and guns into a living symbol of resilience. In turn, this human dimension deepened the ship's impact on history and memory, ensuring that the legend of machine gun extended beyond tactical or technological achievements. Finally, Helena's story resonates on a cultural and historical level. She exemplifies the evolution of naval warfare in World War II, bridging pre-war cruiser design with the emergent importance of radar, coordinated fleet tactics, and night operations. Her engagements highlight the interplay between technology, human skill, and strategy in the Pacific theater. Historically, Helena's legacy contributed to lessons that influenced subsequent ship design, tactical doctrine, and naval training. Memorials, citations, and historical accounts preserve her story, not only as a military case study, but as a narrative of endurance and sacrifice. The ship's mythos, rooted in verifiable action, continues to shape how historians and the public perceive courage, leadership, and technological ingenuity in warfare. July 6, 1943. The Solomon Islands night was thick with tension, shrouded in darkness and heavy humidity. Helena moved cautiously through the waters off Kolombangara, part of a task force intent on intercepting Japanese reinforcement convoys, the infamous Tokyo Express. The Pacific, usually a canvas of calm waves, was tonight a theater of unseen threats. Torpedo tracks, flickers of searchlights, and the faint outlines of enemy ships painted a scene of imminent danger. Helena's radar picked up contacts at a distance. The crew, trained for months in night operations, shifted into battle stations with precision. Gunners tested their turrets, engineers monitored engines for rapid bursts of speed, and officers exchanged concise commands. Every sailor understood the stakes. This was not a skirmish. It was a confrontation that could determine control of the Solomon Islands supply routes. At approximately 0157, Japanese destroyers emerged from the shadows. The first torpedoes were launched, streaking silently toward Helena and her companions. The ship's helm maneuvered sharply, engines roaring, narrowly evading several deadly strikes. Simultaneously, Helena's gunners opened fire, each salvo a calculated attempt to neutralize enemy ships before they could press home their attack. The precision of the fire was remarkable. Multiple torpedoes detonated harmlessly in open water as shells found their marks, illuminating the night in brief, violent flashes. The chaos of battle tested every system and sailor aboard Helena. Orders were shouted over the cacophony of gunfire, explosions, and alarms. Fire broke out in sections of the upper deck, and damage control teams moved quickly, cutting flames and sealing off compartments. Engineers worked relentlessly, adjusting throttles, rerouting power, and monitoring hull integrity. The crew operated as a single organism, each individual action supporting the whole. Tactically, Helena's role was to engage enemy cruisers and destroyers, preventing them from reaching Allied positions on Guadalcanal. Her guns roared with relentless rhythm, shells tracing arcs of lethal fire. Despite heavy enemy bombardment, she maintained formation, providing cover for accompanying destroyers and other cruisers. Intelligence had predicted the Japanese route, but the darkness and confined waters turned the engagement into a deadly test of skill, timing, and nerve. Capt. Gatch's leadership was crucial. He ordered maneuvers that exploited Helena's speed and radar advantage, anticipating enemy attacks and directing concentrated fire to vulnerable points. Every command was measured yet immediate, reflecting the tension of the night and the understanding that a single misstep could result in catastrophe. Officers relayed these orders through shouting, signaling, and radio, synchronizing gunnery, engines, and damage control in a seamless defensive-offensive rhythm. The battle unfolded in minutes that felt like hours. Enemy torpedoes continued to streak past, some narrowly missing the hull. Helena's gunners adapted quickly, shifting targets, coordinating with other ships, and timing salvos to maximize effect while minimizing exposure. The glow of shell impacts and splintering water illuminated silhouettes of sailors moving with practiced urgency. The night was violent, chaotic, yet within that chaos, Helena's precision stood out, proof of training, technology, and human endurance converging. Amid the turmoil, the ship absorbed damage but remained operational. Hits were sustained to the superstructure and secondary batteries, causing fires and casualties, yet Helena's armor and compartmentalization contained the worst effects. Crew members moved between stations under extreme risk, patching damage, firing guns, and ensuring that propulsion systems remained online. The resilience of the ship itself became a tangible presence, a steel testament to preparation and design. By 02:15, the Japanese formation was disrupted. Destroyers and cruisers maneuvered defensively, attempting to regroup and counterattack. Helena, maintaining coordinated fire and precise maneuvers, inflicted significant damage, sinking or disabling multiple enemy vessels. Reports from the battle later confirmed that Helena's contribution prevented reinforcements from reaching Guadalcanal, directly influencing the operational balance in the Solomon Islands campaign. Despite the apparent success, the night's danger was far from over. Japanese torpedo attacks remained unpredictable, and the confined waters limited Helena's maneuvering options. The intensity of combat pressed against every sailor, testing nerves, endurance, and skill. The moments were both tactical and existential. Each maneuver, each salvo, each action could mean survival or destruction. Helena's machine gun reputation was forged in this crucible, a combination of firepower, endurance, and the unwavering courage of her crew. The hours following the initial engagement set the stage for what would become Helena's final confrontation. The night had demonstrated the ship's resilience, the crew's bravery, and the lethal efficiency of their coordinated action. Yet the Pacific, indifferent and unpredictable, was preparing a challenge that would ultimately test every aspect of Helena's design, tactics, and human will. The tension of this night, the chaos of combat, and the heroism displayed naturally lead into climax turning point, Section 2, where Helena faces her ultimate trial and the consequences of battle are realized. As the night of July 6, 1943, deepened, the USS Helena pressed onward through the shadowed waters of Kula Gulf. The task force moved in cautious formation, but the threat of torpedo attack and sudden gunfire loomed at every turn. Despite Helena's proven resilience, the chaos of night combat introduced variables beyond prediction. The Japanese, adapting quickly, executed a coordinated torpedo strike aimed at crippling the American formation. At approximately 03:00, disaster struck. Multiple torpedoes pierced the water, converging on Helena's path. The first torpedo slammed into her port side, a deafening explosion shaking the hull and sending shrapnel flying across the deck. Crew members were thrown off balance, alarms blared and fires erupted in multiple compartments. Engineers scrambled to stabilize engines. Damage control teams raced against the encroaching water, plugging breaches and managing flooding with a precision born of relentless training. Despite the strike, Helena's guns continued firing. Shells lit the night sky, targeting Japanese destroyers attempting to exploit the moment of vulnerability. Lookouts reported fires and damage on enemy vessels, a testament to Helena's enduring offensive capability even while sustaining catastrophic damage. Officers shouted orders above the din of exploding shells and creaking steel, coordinating maneuvers to minimize further hits and maintain as much offensive output as possible. A second torpedo followed almost immediately, impacting near the engineering spaces. This hit proved more severe. Engines faltered, the hull shuddered under the weight of incoming water and smoke-filled compartments. The crew fought desperately to keep power flowing to the remaining guns and maintain buoyancy. Each second became a battle in itself, pumping water, patching holes, and continuing the fight simultaneously. The human endurance on board was extraordinary, yet even the most disciplined efforts could not negate the cumulative damage inflicted by the torpedoes. As Helena listed heavily, officers attempted emergency maneuvers to prevent capsizing. The ship's structural integrity was pushed to its limit. Steel groaned under the strain. Gunners, engineers, and sailors persisted, firing, steering, and reinforcing bulkheads, refusing to abandon their stations. Survivors later recounted the surreal intensity: flames reflected in the dark waters, explosions punctuated by bursts of machine gun fire, and the cries of men coordinating amidst chaos. It was a night that combined the raw terror of battle with the extraordinary heroism of disciplined sailors. By 03:30, it became clear that Helena could not withstand further torpedo impacts. Despite her legendary durability and her crew's extraordinary efforts, the ship succumbed to the damage. The decision to abandon ship was given. Lifeboats and rafts were deployed under enemy fire, with sailors risking everything to ensure comrades reached safety. The evacuation was harrowing. Fires raged, hull sections sank beneath the waves, and visibility was limited by smoke and darkness. Yet remarkably, a significant number of the crew survived, testament to training, leadership, and coordinated effort under extreme pressure. The loss of Helena had immediate tactical consequences. The Japanese, emboldened by the sinking of a key cruiser, momentarily disrupted Allied supply operations in the region. However, the action of Helena and her task force inflicted significant damage on the enemy, sinking or disabling several Japanese vessels and delaying reinforcements to Guadalcanal. Her sacrifice was both tragic and strategically impactful, a dual testament to the cost and necessity of naval warfare in the Pacific. Survivor accounts emphasize the human dimension of this climax. Sailors spoke of comrades who saved others at the expense of their own lives, of officers maintaining composure under impossible circumstances, and of ordinary men performing extraordinary acts of bravery. Each story contributes to Helena's enduring legend. She was not just a vessel of war but a stage for courage, resilience, and the unyielding human spirit. The sinking of Helena also cemented her symbolic status. She had lived up to her moniker, machine gun, surviving and fighting through engagements that would have destroyed lesser ships. Her legacy would inspire not only naval personnel but the public, who followed reports of Pacific battles with fascination and pride. The ship's final moments encapsulated the duality of war, the destruction of steel and the endurance of spirit, the cost of combat and the heroism of those who face it. As dawn broke over Kula Gulf, the waters reflected the aftermath of the night's battle, scattered debris, floating lifeboats, and the ghosts of a ship that had fought to the very end. Helena had fulfilled her role. She had engaged the enemy with determination, protected her task force for as long as possible, and exacted a cost upon the Japanese fleet. Her loss was deeply felt, but the legend of her resilience and the valor of her crew endured. The night of July 6 marked the ultimate test for Helena, blending human courage, technological endurance, and tactical skill into a final, climactic moment. It set the stage for the aftermath, where the consequences of her loss, the survival of her crew, and her place in naval history would be examined in depth. The dawn after the Battle of Kula Gulf revealed a grim tableau. Debris from the USS Helena floated among the waves, mingling with lifeboats and the scattered remnants of personal gear. Yet, amid the destruction, the survival of many crew members offered a testament to training, discipline, and sheer human endurance. Rescue operations began immediately. Destroyers and accompanying cruisers worked tirelessly to recover sailors from the water, often under the lingering threat of Japanese air or naval counterattack. Casualty reports confirmed the human cost. Of Helena's complement of roughly 1,100 officers and enlisted men, over 160 were killed during the battle and subsequent sinking. Many others were injured, suffering burns, shrapnel wounds, and exposure. Survivor testimonies painted a vivid picture of heroism and tragedy. Sailors recounted officers and crewmates risking their lives to pull shipmates from the water, fight spreading fires, and maintain order during the chaotic evacuation. Even as the ship sank beneath the dark waters of Kula Gulf, the crew's cohesion and courage remained intact, exemplifying the resilience that had defined Helena throughout her service. The immediate tactical consequences were significant. Helena's sinking temporarily disrupted Allied operations in the Solomon Islands, particularly in maintaining supply lines to Guadalcanal. Japanese forces gained a fleeting morale boost, while Allied commanders had to reassess cruiser deployments in the region. Yet, reports emphasized that Helena had exacted a cost in return. Japanese destroyers and cruisers sustained significant damage during the engagement, slowing reinforcements and limiting operational mobility. Her final actions, though resulting in loss, contributed directly to the broader strategic objective of maintaining Allied control in the region. Naval leadership documented Helena's performance with both admiration and solemnity. Reports from Rear Admiral Walden L. Ainsworth and other commanding officers highlighted her gunnery effectiveness, resilience under repeated torpedo attacks, and the professionalism of her crew. Ainsworth's reports noted that Helena's actions had prevented Japanese forces from achieving their objective of reinforcing Kolombangara, emphasizing that her contribution extended beyond mere survival. She influenced the broader operational outcome. Memorialization efforts began almost immediately. Newspapers and radio reports in the United States chronicled Helena's service, emphasizing her valor and endurance. The ship became a symbol not only of technological excellence, but of the human spirit under duress. Letters from survivors and families of those lost reinforced the narrative of a vessel that, though physically destroyed, had left an indelible mark on the Pacific theater and the psyche of the Navy. Helena's sinking also prompted critical reflections on naval strategy and ship design. Analysts examined the vulnerabilities exposed during night operations and torpedo engagements. Recommendations included improved anti-torpedo measures, better damage control protocols, and refined coordination for nighttime task force maneuvers. Lessons learned from Helena's loss would inform subsequent cruiser deployments, tactical doctrines, and crew training, ensuring that her sacrifice contributed to the evolution of U.S. naval effectiveness in the Pacific. Yet perhaps the most enduring aspect of Helena's aftermath was the human memory. Survivors carried the weight of loss, the trauma of combat, and the pride of having served on a ship that had earned its legendary reputation. Oral histories and memoirs documented acts of heroism, engineers crawling through smoke-filled compartments, gunners continuing to fire amid chaos, sailors guiding injured comrades to safety. These narratives emphasized that Helena's story was inseparable from those who served aboard her, cementing a legacy of courage and resilience that transcended her physical destruction. The sinking of Helena was both an operational setback and a symbolic victory for the Allied cause. She had engaged the enemy decisively, delayed Japanese reinforcements, and demonstrated the effectiveness of disciplined crews operating within advanced warship systems. Her legacy, therefore, was twofold: tactical impact on the Pacific campaign and the enduring inspiration provided by her crew's valor. As the Solomon Islands' waters settled into a deceptive calm, the echoes of Helena's guns lingered in memory and history. This calm, however, was only the beginning of a deeper examination of her long-term impact, her symbolic resonance, and the lessons carried forward in naval strategy. The story now moves into Aftermath Section 2, where Helena's legacy, memorials, and enduring influence on naval operations will be explored. The loss of USS Helena reverberated far beyond Kula Gulf. Strategically, the sinking prompted reassessments in Allied fleet operations. Cruiser deployments were adjusted, anti-torpedo tactics refined, and night engagement protocols updated based on lessons drawn from Helena's final battle. Naval engineers and tacticians studied the ship's performance under fire. Her resilience, gunnery efficiency, and damage control procedures became case studies, shaping the design and operation of future cruisers in the Pacific theater. Memorialization of Helena began even as the war continued. The ship's name became synonymous with courage and perseverance. The Navy awarded posthumous commendations to those killed in recognition to surviving crew members who displayed extraordinary heroism. Helena's story appeared in military reports, newspapers, and later historical accounts as a symbol of endurance, a vessel that fought to the very end and refused to yield to overwhelming force. The phrase, "the ship that wouldn't die," captured both public imagination and naval lore, elevating Helena from a single vessel to a legend of the Pacific War. For the survivors, the aftermath was intensely personal. Many bore scars, physical and emotional, from the battle, yet their testimony preserved the legacy of their ship and fellow sailors. Accounts describe acts of bravery that bordered on the superhuman: sailors guiding injured comrades to safety, gunners continuing to fire despite mounting casualties, and engineers maintaining critical systems until escape was the only option. These stories became essential historical records, giving life and context to Helena's technical achievements and tactical actions. Helena's symbolic significance extended beyond her crew. Allied forces viewed her as a morale booster and emblem of naval resilience. Her ability to engage enemy ships effectively and survive under intense conditions inspired confidence in other task forces operating across the Solomon Islands. Japanese forces, conversely, treated reports of Helena's engagements with caution and respect, adjusting their tactics to avoid encounters that had proven deadly. In this way, Helena's reputation influenced operational planning on both sides of the conflict, demonstrating that a single vessel could shape psychological and tactical dimensions of naval warfare. Culturally, Helena's story became part of the broader narrative of World War II heroism. Historians and military analysts highlighted her as an example of how human skill, leadership, and technological design intersected under extreme conditions. The Brooklyn-class cruisers, combination of speed, firepower, and resilience, was exemplified in Helena's service. Her engagements underscored the importance of comprehensive training, coordination, and adaptability, lessons that informed post-war naval strategy and shipbuilding philosophies. The legacy of Helena also endures through memorials. Plaques, monuments, and museum exhibits honor both the vessel and the men who served aboard her. These commemorations ensure that the story of her final battle and the heroism displayed continues to inspire future generations of sailors and historians alike. The ship's reputation as machine gun transcended its operational life, becoming a symbol of unwavering courage, technical excellence, and the human capacity to endure in the face of overwhelming odds. In tactical terms, Helena's final engagement demonstrated the evolution of naval combat in the Pacific. Night operations, radar-guided maneuvers, and coordinated fleet actions had become decisive. Helena's actions highlighted both the potential and the limitations of technology when combined with human skill. The lessons learned influenced not only immediate strategy, but also the development of subsequent naval doctrines, emphasizing speed, flexibility, and integrated firepower. Ultimately, the aftermath of Helena's service and loss illustrates a duality: the tangible cost of war and the enduring intangible legacy. Ships sink, battles are won or lost, but the courage, ingenuity, and determination displayed remain etched in history. Helena's story serves as a reminder that the impact of a warship extends beyond metal and armament. It resides in the people who served aboard her, the strategies she enabled, and the symbol she became, a testament to resilience, sacrifice, and the human spirit in the crucible of conflict. As the echoes of Kula Gulf faded into memory, the stage was set for the reflection/closure, a moment to examine the broader historical significance, enduring lessons, and emotional resonance of Helena's story. The story of USS Helena transcends the steel of her hull and the firepower of her guns. She embodies the convergence of technology, human courage, and tactical ingenuity, a vessel whose legend was forged in the crucible of the Pacific War. Helena was called machine gun, not merely for the volume of her fire, but for her resilience, her uncanny ability to endure, and the unyielding spirit of the sailors who made her a formidable force. Her engagements, culminating in the Battle of Kula Gulf, reveal the profound interplay between preparation and chance. Night operations, radar detection, and coordinated gunnery were met by the unpredictable chaos of war: torpedo strikes, unexpected enemy maneuvers, and the relentless pressure of survival. Helena's crew faced these trials with discipline and courage, embodying the human capacity to confront danger while upholding duty and solidarity. Each act of bravery, gunners continuing to fire amidst flames, engineers stabilizing engines under fire, sailors saving their shipmates, transformed the vessel into more than a ship. She became a symbol of endurance, a living testament to resilience under the most extreme conditions. The loss of Helena was tragic, yet her legacy endured. Strategically, she influenced the course of the Solomon Islands campaign. Tactically, she provided lessons that shaped subsequent naval operations and ship design. Culturally, she inspired generations, becoming a narrative of courage, sacrifice, and the indomitable will of those who serve at sea. In remembering Helena, history honors both her technological achievements and the human spirit that gave her life and purpose. As the Pacific returned to a deceptive calm, her story remained, etched in memorials, preserved in survivor accounts, and carried forward in naval doctrine. Helena's journey reminds us that warfare is measured not only in victories and losses, but in endurance, resolve, and the courage to face overwhelming odds. In the quiet after battle, One can almost hear the echo of her guns, a final, enduring testament, the ship that would not die and the people who made her immortal.